So Putin just made a very green speech at the Eastern Economic Forum. He made one comment in particular that revealed his intentions for Europe, and we need to pay attention. The economy is already balancing on a knife's edge. You have global rate hikes on one side and a painful energy crisis in Europe on the other. Either one has the potential to crash the world economy. And in response to the price cap on Russian oil, Putin mentioned that the price caps are a stupid idea, and if Europe imposes it, he will halt supplies and leave them to freeze. So the threat is simple. If you want to further sanction our oil, we will deny it to you and hurt your economy. And if we do a flashback to his speech in June at the St. Petersburg Economic Forum, he specifically said the economy of imaginary wealth is being inevitably replaced by the economy of real and hard assets. So his agenda is as clear as day. He plans to deny Europe any hard assets, specifically oil and gas, and he intends to take down their economy of imaginary wealth, referring to Europe's highly leveraged industrial and financial system. Now we are going to look at the facts and determine for ourselves if Europe could slip into a recession this winter. No matter how this plays out, energy prices are already ridiculous, and my heart goes out to the everyday people who are going to suffer further. Because I believe the price caps are going to come. The G7 has announced it to the world, and I don't think they will backtrack on this decision. And in retaliation, Russia's going to keep the gas taps closed. We are now in an economic battle between the West and Putin, and it's a race to see who can inflict the most pain on each other, or rather, who can withstand the most pain. Europe is betting that they have enough gas stockpile to last through winter. If they can make it to the other side, inflation should slow down a bit and they have another 9 months to stock up again. Now, Russia is betting that Europe will run out of gas reserves, or they'll be rationing gas to such a degree that their industries will collapse. We have the CEO of Deutsche Bank himself already saying a recession is unavoidable for the Eurozone, so it already looks quite grim. Now, we are going to investigate just how bad this crash can get and if there's really no escaping a recession for Europe. Now, we got to understand how important gas is to the EU. They use it to heat their homes and for electricity generation. And if you don't have enough energy, industries will grind to a halt and people will freeze. If we look at Europe's dependence on Russian gas, we can see that the biggest countries dependent are Germany and Italy. Smaller countries like Hungary are also highly dependent, but they are now paying rubles for Russian gas, so the supply is still flowing to them and they'll be fine during winter. But I want us to focus on Germany because that is the beating heart of the Eurozone. Germany alone contributes over 25% of GDP to the Union, and if they slip into a recession, the EU as a whole will likely plunge into one as well. And it's not looking good. Germany's GDP forecast has been downgraded thanks to surging inflation from the energy crisis. Now, back in mid-August, Germany reached 75% of their gas stocks ahead of schedule, and it has grown to an impressive 84% full today. But that was when the Russian gas was still flowing. The Nord Stream 1 pipeline has been shut down for more than a week now, and there's no gas flowing into Western Europe, including Germany. Now, Germany has a plan to replace all Russian gas imports, but it will only happen by 2024. And that's 2 winters away, so we need to focus on the here and the now. Can their stockpiles get them to the spring of 2023? This is where the story gets darker. We have Klaus Meuler, the head of Germany's energy regulator, saying that German gas can only last for a few months if Russia shuts off the supply. And according to him, even if gas inventories are 95% full by November, it will only cover 2.5 months of heating, power, and industrial demand. And here's the big variable. We don't know just how bad winter will get for Europe, but for Asia as well. Because if it happens, there will be a global surge in energy demand. Then Europe will have to pay through the nose just to keep warm. So let's analyze the baseline scenario for Germany because things are really getting bad there. The Germans have already cut their gas consumption by 15% in July to meet the EU targets, but that is not enough. They need to reach a cut of at least 20% to avoid rationing in winter. Now, according to IMF calculations, Germany is going to experience a gas shortage no matter what. They have projected a scenario where Russia cuts off all their gas to Germany, which is playing out now. And I have to mention they made a lot of assumptions in their calculations, They assume the Russian gas shutoff happened in June 2022, but in reality, it has only happened 3 months later in September. But the calculations are still pretty grim. It shows a shortage of 3.9 billion cubic meters of gas that spikes to 8.9 in 2023 before tapering off to 0.9 in 2025. And in percentages, the second half of 2022 will have a 9% shortage of gas relative to the consumption that will get worse and spike to 10% in 2023. And this means there's going to be a big shortfall which will hit industrial demand, consumer demand, or both. Plus, the pain will continue into 2023. So the facts are pointing to an energy crisis in Europe when winter comes. It is almost unavoidable, but let us quantify the GDP impact. Remember, the textbook definition of a recession is 2 quarters of negative GDP growth and nothing else, and I'm not going to change its definition for this video. And according to the IMF, they project Germany's GDP to take a hit of up to 1.5% in 2022 and a hit of almost 3% in 2023 from the baseline. And that means this Russian gas shutoff will affect Germany's GDP. And if we take their projection of Germany's economic outlook and we throw in the GDP impacts of a Russian gas shutoff, we can see that Germany will be in a recession in 2022 and 2023. GDP in 2022 will be minus 0.25% and around up to minus 2% in 2023. So a recession seems to be highly likely. Now, even in the official estimates, which are notoriously optimistic, are predicting that the German economy will shrink by up to 1.4% in 2023. And that is not a good sign. The economists in the institute specifically said the German economy is in a downward spiral. The expected loss of purchasing power will have negative consequences for the economy. And we have been saying it for a long time. Demand destruction is coming, and now it's going to hit Europe in a painful way. And this is the effect of Putin's energy denial strategy. He knows that the German economy, the manufacturing powerhouse of Europe, is powered by Russian gas. According to Zoltan Posa from Credit Suisse, almost $2 trillion of German value depends on $20 billion of Russian gas. And this is an enormous leverage that Germany has when it comes to their industrial production. And this means that the Russian gas shutoff will affect the production of German goods and services. It can cause a massive disruption of up to $2 trillion worth of damages, and this is obviously not good for the German economy. So Putin is trying to cut off the commodity inputs into the German manufacturing machine to crash the economy into a recession. And according to the IMF numbers we saw earlier, it's highly possible. And this leaves us with the dangerous decision that the EU policymakers have to make, because obviously they have to do something, right? The Russian gas shutoff will cause higher energy costs that will cause another wave of higher inflation. Inflation in the Eurozone is already at 9.1% in August, and when winter comes, it could easily reach double digits. In fact, I did a recent poll on how high inflation can get in Europe, and the majority of you guys believe it could crack 20%. And this means Europe has only 2 deadly choices left, both of which leads to a lot of pain. Now, the most logical choice is to tighten even further and crush demand to fight inflation. The ECB has raised rates by 75 basis points in September, and they are calling for another 75 basis points super hike in October. And this seems to be the path that they are taking. Higher rates means higher borrowing costs and demand going down. So if they go down this road, we will see massive layoffs, highly leveraged companies crashing, and the economy is almost guaranteed a recession. Things are so bad that we are now seeing German manufacturers halt their production just to fight the rising energy costs. There are also now German energy importers and energy companies scrambling to the ECB asking for money to stay afloat. And here comes the dangerous situation that Germany is facing. They've already built out the energy giant Uniper with 15 billion euros. And now there's a plan to give a 65 billion euro relief package to the people. Now Germany is trying to build out the country by using their balance sheet, which likely means more money printing and penalizing the energy companies. Now, this is highly inflationary in the long term. It means more deficit spending and inflation will still be kept high. So Germany essentially is trying to buy 3 to 6 months of time to make it past winter. They are trying to outlast Putin. So this brings us to the base case of the German economy or the Eurozone at large, which is stagflation. Interest rates are going to continue to rise, and now Germany is trying to inject stimulus into the economy at the same time to keep it afloat. This means it won't be a simple recession where inflation is eventually crushed. Chances are it will be middle of the road outcome. It won't be a complete collapse, but inflation is here to stay. Prices are still going to be elevated and the European stock markets are going to take a hit, but it probably won't be a total meltdown unless, of course, winter is unusually cold. Now, how about Russia? What if Europe survives winter without disintegrating? Then the tables might flip on Russia quite a bit. The big gamble Putin is taking is that China and India will be around to buy their oil and gas, and he has made progress on that front. China has signed a historic deal to buy Russian gas using rubles and yuan. China is essentially buying cheap gas and reselling it back to Europe for a profit, so it's a win for them. But if that deal falls through, or China and India decides to push down their buying price using the oil price caps as an excuse, then Russia will be in deep trouble. Their limited source of revenue will be further squeezed because if Europe gets through in one piece, there'll be more sanctions about to hit Russia. I don't know what they're going to pull out of their magic hat, but it's gonna happen. The Russian economy is already in a recession with their economy projected to contract by 3% this year. Remember, these are numbers from Russia, so I'm taking it with a pinch of salt as well. So make no mistake, Russia is also in a vulnerable position because they are heavily reliant on China. No economy is doing fantastic today. But whatever the case, for us as investors, the outlook is very grim, at least for the next 3 to 6 months. Europe is likely going to enter a recession with high inflation. It is facing a deadly combo of rising rates, higher energy prices, and stimulus spending all at the same time. And if somehow winter in December is brutal and the gas stockpiles are burnt up early, then we could see a collapse in the European economy. So there's likely more downside to go in asset prices. Just type in European recession on Google and almost everyone is in agreement that a recession is coming and unavoidable. And the big question is, how bad will it be? Because what happens in Europe will not stay in Europe. Other countries, especially the US economy, will be affected. We might have to prepare for a deeper recession in the US markets and other countries slipping into one as well. We could see demand destruction across the board, people losing jobs and all their money will be spent buying food and electricity. Investing will be the last thing on their minds. Asset prices could crash much further. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Can Europe survive the coming winter in one piece, or will it enter a serious recession that could spark a global financial crisis? Let me know in the comments below. Stay safe, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe as we navigate through these crazy times.